Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's first Friday Toast to the Arts and Parks show with the National Parks Arts Foundation. We love the National Parks Arts Foundation.
Yeah, we do.
They do, they rock. They have these amazing 1 month long artist residencies just in parks, like Dry Tortugas National Park out in the Florida Keys. You get to go out there for a full month on your own island, your own key. I mean, it's amazing. Then you've got places like Chaco Canyon in northern New Mexico, Fort Union in northern New Mexico. Then there's Death Valley. And then you can go out to Hawaii and you can go to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And that's where we're going today. And we're going to be chatting with multimedia visual and performing artist, Mary Babcock. In fact, she lives in Hawaii, so this is going to be interesting to talk about that. And I encourage you to go to Mary's website so you can see her art. It's marybabcock.com. And also the National Parks Arts Foundation is nationalparksartsfoundation.org. So welcome, Mary. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
This is great. I mean, your art is totally like no one else does your art. Like when we talk about original and authentic art, like there's no messing around. We do love the shenanigans. We've been on your website looking at some of your the shenanigans is fun.
We got to have a sense of humor, right?
Oh, we need it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's very interesting you being in Hawaii. Because, aren't you originally from Ireland? Am I reading that right? You went.
I have Irish citizenship, but I actually grew up in upstate New York, so it's a big distance from here, though. It's very different space than where I live now. Yeah.
Oh wow, wow. Where were you in upstate New York?
I grew up in Rochester, which when I grew up was run by Kodak, Xerox, and IBM, and it was a very different place than where I'm living currently. In terms of culture.
Yeah, we just went through upstate New York for the first time and went through Seneca Falls and we saw Rochester on there. And it's beautiful. Yeah. You've got some beautiful wetlands and your area is close to Erie, Pennsylvania. I think we were there.
Yeah, I grew up pretty close to Lake Ontario, actually. And, when I grew up, the Great Lakes were in not very good shape. And, in fact, I remember as a kid, they used to talk about Lake Erie actually catching on fire because of the pollutants. And they've done so much with the Clean Water Act that, now it's recreational spaces. So, there's hope.
Yeah, there is hope.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Legislation can make a difference.
Yeah.
Well, we have to put a lot of that back. I'm just saying some of that has to come back to it. But it's amazing, like Lake Erie, like I was thinking, because when you were, when we were in Erie, Pennsylvania, it was this, such a shock for us because we, lived in the Southwest and Southern California. And then all of a sudden, like, this is the industrialization of America. I'm like, wow, this is like for real. It was like, this is all the things you read about are here. And then they have Presque Isle, which was, just an amazing space. So it is good to hear about the clean water. But I mean, Hawaii, that's completely different. The water, you got lava. You got lava.
Yeah. Land being made. It's pretty amazing phenomenon to actually be in a place where the island's growing, So.
That's weird because it's almost like the lava is a moving, breathing thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of life force here.
Yeah, I mean, because it's always changing, and that's the thing, and nature is always changing if you look. I was reading, about you, obviously, and you were talking about walking, and this is something, we even have a Facebook group just for people walking, and it's about observation, even if you have to take the same walk every day, right, that you'll see different things on each walk, and it isn't about how fast you go, it's about observing. Some people are doing it for health and speed, but it is observing. Tell us about your walking and how it connects to your art.
Yeah, well, it's great. When I proposed for my proposal for this project, I actually had put out that I wanted to spend a lot of time walking the trails. And, that was for sort of a couple reasons. One, I really think of art practice is a kind of research that's really on par with science. It's just a different language and asks different questions. And, one of the ways for me to really start to have an encounter with a space is to spend a lot of time with that space and walking that space and, sort of slowing down enough to be able to actually take in a whole range of perceptions, like visual perceptions, auditory, what it feels like, what the air feels like, who I talk to on the path, and even sort of the energies of the space. So it's really been great to be able to spend a lot of time, really just, like I said, just walking the trails, and I also think of it, it's like along the line of many, many artists who engage walking as practice, is there is also a sort of kind of mark that I'm making too, whether it's visible or not, in terms of, sort of the landscape as a path I'm also traversing. And, we're always making marks on our paths. And to do that with a kind of intentionality of being open to that space, asking permission to be in a space, actually, and just really spending the time there. So it's been really a great experience. Somebody told me once that, it's like humans can move at lots of rates, but the soul moves at the pace of walking, in that sense of like, really, we're so used to everything being fast and immediate and through our eyes and ears, but our body takes in a lot of information too. So it's been a real treat to be able to slow down enough to just spend some time.
I think it's just really important to slow down because, we're driving ourselves crazy. We really are. There's exercise I've talked about that I learned from a person in Africa. We call it the tree exercise, where you get on your hands and knees and put your right hand on the tree trunk and close your eyes, and you stay there until you can hear the heartbeat of the tree. And I know it sounds nuts, but it's really cool to do. And I think you're one of the people that would really like it.
Yeah.
Because it does put you in touch.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually. I think like Western ideology forgets that we are one of many energetic organisms. We tend to have these taxonomies of like who counts, but the sort of knowledge that I think many indigenous peoples have and maintain is that life energy is everywhere, right? And we're one of many, many, many different life energies, that the mountain has life energy. That's not just a myth, that's actually like, a real understanding of our relationship to a place. In Hawaii, there's a practice of kilo, and I'm in no way expert in Hawaiian knowledge, but I try to sort of find the overlaps between sort of my experiences and others. But the practice of kilo is really about that kind of deep listening of like really paying attention in ways that we don't. Western, like my education, is so much about thought and not so much really about just the time it takes to have sort of deep observation. So it's been great to have that time.
I think, when you are in a residency, because you don't live far from the residency, do you?
Well, normally I live on Oahu. I did live on a different island, and I spent a lot of time sort of walking the waters pathways there, the beaches there. But this is Hawai'i Island's really pretty new to me. So, it's like, hello, different place and ecosystem and energy and history and everything else, right?
Well, we want to go. We have to go. We have to go because we've never been, you know what I mean? And I know everybody wants to go have the little cocktails and, the beachy thing, but like, we're like you, and I want to get in the lava tubes and those experiences. And when you have a residency, even though you're not far, you're on a different island, and so the ecosystem does change. Microclimates change just down the road.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So it's that's the way it is. But because everything is blending into everything, when you look at it, until humans get a hold of it and go, everything needs to be a box, everything needs to be the same color, obey your HOA, never be good in a homeowners association setting ever. But when you get into, because nature it's blending into one ecosystem at a time. And so it's never, there is no real borders with nature,
No.
because of that interconnectivity. But when you go, so we feel a border when we go somewhere new. So you island hop, the residency, to just have that month. I think what's so great about the National Parks Arts Foundation is they allowed you to change what your idea was. You have, this is the proposal, this is what I want to do when I'm there. And majority of the time it changes. Just about every artist is like, oh, but I learned this whole new thing, and they love that you have that experience, or whatever your experience is. But I think they allow you to breathe and to just be with it, isn't it? I mean, is that what it is for you? Like you learn new things.
I can't say how important that is.
Yeah.
I really feel very grateful to both the National Parks and the National Parks Arts Foundation. And one thing I really want to say about the National Parks Arts Foundation, and I'll say the director, Tanya Ortega specifically too, is they really understand how artists work. And so, like for me, I'm just getting scratching the surface of trying to get to know this place. And there's really an understanding that that's valuable time, that, there's not an expectation that in 3 weeks I produce a very specific kind of work, but rather this is the kind of research of being in a place is significant. And, it's I think, if I was a scientist and I went someplace, somebody wouldn't expect me to go spend 3 weeks and have a publishable paper at the end of 3 weeks, right? But, often I think in the arts, people think, oh, you're going to do a painting, and I think, contemporary art practice, many artists work in very different ways, and it takes time to integrate, first of all, to let go of what I'm used to seeing, actually have an actual encounter with the place. And then in Hawaii, oh my God, the layers of learning about the sort of ecosystems, but then the cultural heritage and colonization, and there's so many layers to understanding, or even starting to understand the space, that this is my hors d'oeuvre or something, you know what I mean? It's just getting my appetite wet of oh, but now I want to learn more about this, or I want to learn more about that, and who's going to help me understand this. So, and then, to be able to connect up with the folks that, and the National Park Service, or the cooperative extension here, there's so many people with so much knowledge, and cultural practitioners. I mean, it's just there's so many potential connections out there that's so exciting. So that's great.
I totally understand that, because as we traveled, we were supposed to visit different countries, but we were called to a country, and then somehow we're living there. And then, then you get the bug again, and you go travel, and you're supposed to come back home, as you would say, but then you go to another country, and then we ended up living there. And so we kind of, have done this. I think we've lived in 5-6 countries now. I'd have to count it, go back. Yeah. Because you start seeing things, and you go down the rabbit hole, because the more you see, the more you realize you haven't seen. And then, as from an artistic standpoint, you want to portray a feeling or what you've seen to somebody else in some manner that it's trying to communicate and say, hey, come on over here. And and that takes time. It just doesn't. It takes time. It takes time and thought, meditation, thought. Sometimes I like the idea of walking through an area as on your hands and knees, just so you could be a kid again, kind of seeing it from a different point of view, instead of we could make ourselves shrink to different sizes or be taller to see different things on the same walk. You know what I mean?
And I think it's even just like giving permission to not have the answers right away. So like my first few days on the paths, I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I thinking? Like, what I got to understand? What am I going to, what's going to be my topic? Blah, blah, blah. That like chatter that's going, like sort of my ego, right? Of like, but I got to produce something, and,
right.
And, it's like, it took a few days for that to just quiet, right? So that then I can be open to some, something that I get really from a bleak angle that I look at and go, oh my gosh, that's really sort of interesting. I wonder, and then that takes me some other place, or a little chat I have with somebody on the path, which, when my head is going, but I got it, like nothing's going in. It's all just, so it's just like that decompression time, I think, is super important. And another thing I think that, that NEPAF is, the National Parks Art Foundation does, it has been super. I just feel so much gratitude that they also support my family to come, if they can come and stay. And so, like, I'm a mom of a 10-year-old, and, to not have to make a full decision between, like, my art practice and my role as a mom is really super great. So, my partner's been able to come. I've been able to go and have long alone time on the path, but then, see my family at night. So that, I think that is not common, and it's like, oh,
that's
what a
cool.
gift.
I think it adds to it too, because
it's a whole other dynamic.
Absolutely.
When I love, I'm not a person who's ever had kids or anything, but I always talk about this, going hiking with a friend and his little girl, and she comes and grabs, it's like, I'm like, no kids, and then next thing you know, they all want to come and play with you, But as soon as it's like I'm coming to play with her. She doesn't like kids. I do. That's why we do what we do.
Like dogs have the same thing. Yeah.
I know. It's like, okay, here we go. But anyway, so she grabs my hand, and now next thing you know, they slow down. So when you talk about taking a walk, if you go with a child, I mean, they look at, we were looking at fairy houses with, lanterns. Oh, this is this for the fairy. And then you see this, they see the ecosystems. They're so unfiltered and not clogged with, humane crud, that they see things and open our eyes, because we have, we always talk about, our negative things as adults. Our brains have that no thing. Kids don't have that. They haven't been tarnished yet. And so it's like, so we can, when you walk with a kid, there's this whole other sense of wonder that comes about, I'm not saying every time, but it just, I think that's cool that you get to have that balance, and why not? Because part of your art is who you are, right? So you're a mom.
Yeah, no, that's really true for me. Like being able to, my art and my life are very integrated, and so it's really feels supportive for people to understand that it's like the idea of the sort of struggling artist by themselves tortured is not a goal I'm headed for. I really want to do.
I know
the images of like what successful artists are. They never have anything going on. It's like that's not reality for me.
Eating SpaghettiOs over a candle flame.
No, it's like, let's all be artists. How much fun is that?
Yeah, it's so crazy. But don't you teach too? You're an educator as well?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's
I teach it that. Yeah.
That's got to bring, doing this kind of residency, do you kind of take things away for, education too? Teaching
no, it's awesome. And I get a lot from that too, So I'm super lucky because I'm also on sabbatical this year. So this has been jump-started my time here on the Big Island, and I'm able to stay here and do some additional research, which is just awesome, in creative practice. But it it helps me bring a lot back to my teaching, especially, people haven't been to Hawaii, I don't know, but like each island is just super different. It's super culturally different. And, I have a lot of students from spaces I haven't ever, really sort of have spent any time. So like, that'll be really nice actually to be able to come back and be able to talk about some spaces with my students and learn from them. And, that's a really nice interchange as well, to be able to.
I wanted to talk about
students, they keep your mind active.
Yeah, I mean they're all part of it's like when you go to a college town, life is so much better, We always go, you can always tell if you're in a college town, the music on the radio is not the same playlist. I mean, food gets better. There's just an energy. There's a vibe, and things are like, and it's exciting, and it's, excitable chatter in a coffee shop. Like, hey, man, I discovered this. Like, this is crazy stuff, dude. So it's fun, and so I think that, when you're educating, you're getting even more educated, whenever you're teaching someone something, you end up learning more, so that's cool. But I wanted to go to how you do your art, because like I said, there is no one like Mary Babcock on this planet at all. And I love that. I love that. No, that's so important. That's what art is about. But you are using things, there's the performance art, but then you're also, you're creating with different things. And I was looking at some of your art. I think you were doing, it was like a frozen lake. And then you got me all into this, because like everywhere we go, I'm getting into all the patterns of nature. It's like the water, and then the water will change here, but it's now, if it's brown water, is it going to have the same ripple effect as this water? It's like I weird out. I really don't ever need to do drugs, because it's all there. I mean, when you you go and you get into this zone, you do trip out, So and then you did this one with ice, and it took me back to this is just when you're in these different environments, nature's so darn amazing. There's we were in Yosemite years ago, and it wasn't quite, it was frozen, it was cold, but where we went, this little part of water was frozen, but it wasn't like if you're in the Great Lakes, like you're talking about, where you can go actually ice skating. But there were cubes. There were giant ice cubes.
Yeah, it was weird.
That nature formed, like cubes on top of the water. Like, I was like, this is some of the craziest stuff I just was like, just leave me here all day with the cubes, because it was just, I never, I always think nature is rounded, but there were cubes. So, but I was looking at some of your art, I'm like, I need to take you there. I want you to see what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So is it the patterns for you? Because it's like patterns are force of life, right? In movement.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're so interconnected, and I think I have a background in psych too, and so I think I'm, it's like,
Nancy, we better hang up now.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
But I actually, I did a degree in psychology, and then I think, I've always been interested in, like, what makes people work? Why are we not more kind to one another? Like, why do, the big questions, like, what is the meaning of life questions? And, I felt like psychology never answered those for me. So I ended up going into art, and I feel like it moves towards that more, because I can ask any question I want. And I think, I feel like I learn a lot about sort of humans and how we engage with another, or we don't, through like observing nature, and sort of vice versa, because we're like really not that different than that frozen ice pond. You know what I mean? Like, there's like parts of that process of freezing and thawing that feel very similar to sort of social engagement too. So, like, I think, often when I'm out on a path and something strikes me, I'm really interested in like the sort of story of that space, but the deeper story it tells us about like how we're supposed to be in this place too. So like there was one I remember when I was, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was in a residency in Sitka Center for Art and Ecology in Oregon coast, and it froze over one night, which is pretty rare right on the coast, and the creeks had frozen over, like completely frozen over. But like underneath that, there was still, you could see the fish swimming and the life, and it's like, I mean, I guess maybe that's obvious to ecologists, but to me, as just a person walking around, it was like, oh my God, that's like so amazing, actually. Like that, like that sort of life under that surface, and then like that image became a whole space to start doing I did a really large scale installation from that perception of being under the frozen water, and sort of, and also just sort of that the spiritual place,
How about the soil, like especially a softer soil, and you're walking on it, and your weight sometimes I think, okay, what's underneath your foot as you put it down?
Yeah, totally.
Some little earthworm's going, help, stop it, or not.
Tunnels
or here,
yeah.
Or here, if you're not careful, it's a lava tube. You know what I mean? Like here, like where you walk here, you got to sort of be aware that nature is large, and because this is so many of the spaces. I mean, not where you walk in the park, right? Because that's really monitored here, but like literally, there's like very thin surfaces on parts of this island that there's nothing underneath actually.
Oh wow!
So that sense of the mark. Like lava tubes are big hollow spaces where the fast-moving lava moves through, and then it cools around the edge. So there are these huge tunnels that, like literally, like being conscious of where you walk in terms of how you're affecting the landscape. But
I think that's important. Yeah, because do you get tidal pools and things like that there, or no? Because of it, I've just, I'm looking at, we've done a lot
tide
of
pools.
Tidal, I'll call them tidal pools, but tide pools. Do you get them there with like urchins and stuff?
It's amazing. Like the tidal life here is amazing, and I think like one of the plants I've gotten very interested in is the tree called the ohia lehua, and it reseeds itself like in fresh lava beds.
That's
and starts
amazing.
Breaking down the rock, basically, as it eventually then becomes soil. I mean, like, if you go out over the lava bed, they're decently stark, but not really. Like, there's plants growing through there, that then gather the water and, and break down the lava into the soil. So it's just, that's crazy amazing.
Yeah. That's such a great system, and it just amazes me that we're always trying to control nature, and it's so far ahead of us. It just we're just trying to keep up. We should try to keep up instead of control. I don't know.
Humans aren't big on humility,
I find this lava thing so crazy. I mean, the lava fields we've been to, like in Oregon too, right? So, like when you think about, you've done all of this on the, the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia area, and then you're in Hawaii, right? And it's like, it's sharing. These ecosystems are that blending again, right? So you're part of all those areas. So it's trippy, but the lava on the, that's like in Oregon, Central Oregon, they have like trees and wildflowers growing, and like, what the heck? How are you having a forest within the lava? How is this happening? How is a tree growing out? I mean, we've seen wildflowers grow in Amboy crater. It's like, what is going on? Like, how does this happen? To me, that is nature is amazing, and I really don't think we quite understand it all. So with art, do you think a lot of it is about us slowing down? Like, what we've talked about in this conversation is, I think we have to just be with it to get it.
Well, I think it's being in your body too. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much of modern Western culture that is, very like in your brain, and not in your physical body, in a physical space that's maybe uncomfortable. Like, it gets hot here, it gets cold here. It's like it gets wet. There's bugs. There's annoying people behind me. Like all that. And we're so more and more, we just cut out what's not like physically comfortable even, like you get tired, you get thirsty, like, and I think like all of that is like so important to be able to be like physically present in our bodies, so that I can also feel, I feel the shifting of the wind, and I smell the smell of the sulfur that's like coming off the rocks, and that's super interesting. Or, just being able to sense just like the rate at which the clouds are shifting. And, I think, like, again, I maybe having lived in academia a bit where, it's like there's like thinking, and it's like as if the only way we perceive is through our eyes and our brain and sometimes our ears. That, like, art practice to me with whatever you're doing, it's like it's often engaging with the material world in some way, like the physical, like stuff. You're touching stuff, or you're doing things that are amplifying your senses, or allowing us to be physical bodies in a physical world, not just a digital information world.
and just being, I think the hardest part is when they talk about writer's block. It's sometimes you look at a canvas and it takes you 3 days or 4 days before you can actually paint, because you thought you had an idea and then you don't. Or it keeps changing, and you can't settle down to one idea. That it is interpreting your environment in the most honest way, which is why everybody's art is different, because everybody is actually different. But it's really interesting to me. It's the fact that we are all so different, and yet there's a portion of, I don't know, I think it's based on fear, insecurities of being wary of people who don't look exactly like you do. You know what I mean? I don't mean you personally, but I mean, that we still have racism, and we still have wars, and all this is still going on when we can't barely cope with living where we live, but yet we think we're doing fine, but we're not. If we were doing fine, we wouldn't be at war with each other. We wouldn't be not liking different people based on what they believe or their color or whatever. It's like we don't live within. We're still trying to control.
See, but this is the balance where art comes in and says, get over it, get out of it. Art is the wake-up call, I think, whether it's music, performance, visual, whatever that story is. And it's something different for each person, whether you're reading a book, Art is the wake-up call. It's what snaps you out of it, And I think nature is the same thing, because you cannot control nature, really. You can only work with her. You work her against her. Well, we're seeing those effects, right? So, this is cool. So, are you doing any events connected with the residency?
I did a walk, which was really great. Like a walk, really sort of trying to give a small sort of like a window into my practice in an hour, like how what I do when I'm out there, or what trying to some exercises and just sort of tuning into your senses, and that was really great. And then I'm in the process of sort of developing a body of work from it right now. So.
Wow,
cool. That takes a little bit of time, but
What are some tips you would give someone, just not necessarily going in to do an art degree or become like a famous artist, that just wants to slow down and connect with nature and use art and doing the walking process? I was thinking like Julia Cameron. Have you the artist way? Like she always talks about the importance of walking. But what would you say for someone just getting started, that just it's time to make those connections? What would a tip be for observing and because it is more than just open your eyes. There is some calming down.
Patience. I think I would say, it's like, I think, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm pretty quick to judge myself of not doing something well enough immediately. And I think like enjoy too, I think like joy is a deep motivator. It's different than being happy. I think like going for a walk and noticing, like just noticing where your attention goes. It's one thing I notice with my students, like they don't even know what they're interested in a lot of times, or where they don't even know like what they're paying attention to in the world, because we don't pay attention to ourselves very well. So like, going for a walk and just, maybe relaxing here and there and noticing, what was I looking at? What was I thinking about? What did I just hear? Like literally like focusing on one sense at a time. It's like, that's not my idea, right? Like that's a common sort of walking meditation practice. but it really helps to just like pay attention first to the senses. And then I also sort of pay attention to like random stories. Like, why am I thinking about what I'm thinking about? Is it because I don't want to be present? Or is it because for some reason that training made me think about a story that might be sort of relevant, And I guess just like playing around too, and getting like, this one's hard for me still, but getting rid of the big A around art. Like, it's not so freaking serious. I believe I take my work very seriously, but like that big A about it of I need to be an artist or I'm not an artist or like whatever, like who cares?
No, you have to
like,
be
are
freaky,
you
man.
You
have to be freaky.
Oh, and listen, you can never paint unless you have a little beret on your head.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have a beret.
Yeah.
You have to have the persona of the artist.
Right. So just like drop that. And you don't have to be good and like all that, like it just gets in the way so much. Time, I think, matters. Like, right, anything you practice, you get better at, right? Like, so, if you want to engage your senses, the more you do that, the more you're going to experience, right? But like putting a heavy label, am I good enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that, like that, if you can gracefully let go of that, I think that helps. But that's a practice I have to do still, like let go of the big A. The big art is.
Yeah.
Even though like I said, I take it I believe in it, but, a little sensitive.
Well, there's the commercial aspect of being an artist that comes into play, because how do you make a living? And then you're doing something that's intensely personal and having to market it to people who may or may not see your vision. And I always find it interesting that people will interpret the same painting 20,000 different ways. Because it's, so what it means to the artist may or may not come through to the viewer, because the viewer has different lists of experiences to draw on. So they're going to go from
I think
there.
you got to get used to
Go ahead. They're going to have to
just getting used to disappointment and like not feeling good enough to yourself or whatever, and getting used and just like that. Okay, that's just me, and rejection too. It's like one of the things I think as artists, like going through school. You got to just get used to. A lot of people aren't going to like what you do, and it doesn't mean it's not good.
No,
it just means like maybe that's not the right place to be sharing.
That's a huge thing.
That's
rejection is huge. It's like you take your stuff into a gallery and they just look at you, and some of them put their hand under their chin and they look up, but then they look down at you and just nod no.
Then it's no, wait, it goes no. How big
like
is your
you don't
Facebook
even
following?
You don't even get a verbal conversation. Just no.
Yeah. So you just got to separate out the personal, like of that's not a rejection of my personhood. You know what I mean? Like person, that specific person in this specific time and place doesn't like what I made. And those a lot of times those get collapsed.
Or they just didn't get it. They didn't get it.
They didn't get it.
It's not a match.
All right.
I kind of look at things like that as it's not a match.
Totally. Yeah.
And sometimes it could take 10 years and then all of a sudden it's an amazing match, because everybody is going through something at a different time and space. And, and that's education. It's emotional, and art is emotional, so it's where you're at that time. So sometimes it's just spin the dial again. If you look at it, like every moment is like it just landed there, and you can control so much, but you can really not control a whole bunch of it. I say about the big A, I like that you call it the big A. It's like, don't be an artzilla. That's what it is. It's the artzillas. Don't be the artzilla. You know what I mean? Don't be that. Yeah, don't. Yeah, because art is art, and it either connects with you at that point or it doesn't. And that's not, it's just not personal. And, even though the art is still personal to the artist, right? It's still a personal connection, but once you create it and someone sees it, it becomes the viewer or the, the audience. So it's cool. See, but that's when you go out in nature is the coolest. I mean, I don't know. Nature will connect with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
when you go in nature, perspective for me.
When you go out in nature and you look at a bird, 9 times out of 10, unless you scare it, it looks back at you. And it goes, look at you. And then you're all like, hey, look at you. And there's a correspondence, there's a relationship there, and they're not, they fly away out of fear. They don't go, I don't like the way you're dressed, so I'm moving. They just, So I that's why I think it's important that people do go outside and walk in nature and look at the bugs and look at the plants, look at the leaves, look at the flowers, look at the birds, look at the tree bark. Tree bark is awesome. There's so many patterns, So I mean, there's so many things we just walk by and don't notice. And, I don't
and a different sense of time, too, that tree's been there 600 years. What's my problem in this 5 minutes? You know what I mean? It's like time, just real different sense of time scale and what's relevant and what's not.
I know,
that's
like
rocks. I want to go, dude,
are amazing.
We were just up in the northern part of the country, and you look at the geology there, and you're like, dude, you came here through the Ice Age. This stuff went down. Different tribes that came through, different animal species, maybe dinosaurs, all of this stuff, it's been there. And I do believe rocks are alive. I don't believe in inanimate anything.
I hate that.
I just don't. Because there's no way. It just isn't. To me, that's just me. I'm weird, and it's okay. And so when you stand next to a rock, that there's energy left from all these things that occurred.
Well, look how much they've seen.
And so to me, I go like, wow. And then when you think of lava, that's really crazy, because it's moving, it's changing, yet it still also has that. You know what I mean? That's some crazy stuff to go from.
Yeah, it is.
Because you think it becomes rock, but then it isn't. I don't know, man. It's weird. Lava's cool. It's cool. I can't wait to follow your journey with this. How can people keep up with you? Do you do social media for people to follow your journey?
I don't do a lot on social media. Probably my website's the best way, actually.
Babcock.com. Okay. That's a good thing. Everyone can go there. Once you get in there, it's a rabbit hole too. Which we like rabbit holes, apparently. I was going to ask you, would you apply for another residency through NPAF, the National Parks Arts Foundation?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. It's just
would it be somewhere different?
I can't say no. Yeah, I mean, it sounds funny maybe, but like Haleakala, which is on Maui, it's like, I guess it seems like, I'm in Hawaii, I should want to go someplace completely different. But, it's been amazing to be able to get to know this place that's sort of closer to home, actually. And like I said, the different islands are so different. And Glacier, I've also been really interested in Glacier, too, just because I think of, so much of my work has been connected to climate change. And, I don't know. I have a mixed feeling about, going to spaces that are so directly sort of experiencing that change from rising temperatures. So
we interviewed a lady. She wrote a book, Fire and Ice. I've got to look at
Fire
Deanna
and Ice,
Birch. Fire and Ice, Deanne Birch, and she lived out there in the 70s. And this, she was with the Inuits, and we were talking about the little area she lived. Her and her husband, he did stuff, and she didn't expect to be living that way. It's like she gets married, and then holy cow, what? You're living on steel, and you're So it's a really cool story. But so I said to her, climate change. What about that? Do you think it's going to affect the little village? She goes, no, they're the first village that are actively having to move right now. So you've got to think about the ancestral history that's going to melt with, I mean, when you're in Hawaii, you've got that feeling too, right? That it's anywhere. I mean, look at, ancestral people,
well, all across
and then
the
it's going to go.
Yeah.
The Pacific and the Pacific, when you think all the way Alaska, all the way down to, Southern California to Baja, it's just the Sea of Cortez. Look at the differences and look at the whales that will go from there all the way down. And all of all these different, man, it's cool. They could just go up and down there the whole time and never see everything, and it's just so amazing. But I think it would be hard to see. It'd be heartbreaking. And we have a friend who just came back from Alaska, and she did she's a tourism person, and she went out and she just said, this is it. This is we're at the end of it. It's not going to be what it was. And that is heartbreaking when you think about what. So in a way, I think it has to be captured. I'm starting to think like we have to show the negatives in art. We can't just always do the cheery, happy. It has to show the negatives. People see. So it's a crazy time.
Art and music has done a lot and a lot of cultural change comes through art and music, right? Like, because for us to change how we behave, we have to change how we think and feel too, right? Probably first.
I think it's solace, and also art and music is the truth of history. It tells the emotion, it captures what really went down, and other people like to take things out of history books, and you know what I mean. The music and arts tell the truth, and sometimes it's a harsh truth, but I'd rather take it through the arts. If I'm going to have to learn a hard lesson, I'll do it that way. So that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you are there, and it's so cool to chat with you and hear thank you. You are connected with the lava, man. Get in this lava tube. I want to go play in a lava tube.
I know, me too.
I know. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. MaryBabcock.com is the website. Connect with her art. I mean, there's so many different ways. And also, NationalParksArtsFoundation.org is the website for NPAF. And they do accept donations. I just want to say, as we start edging towards the holiday season and, taxes and everything, you may want to just, make a nice donation. I'm just saying. And also, if you're an artist, when we talk about art, go look at what Mary does, right? And her art is, you can't really define your art. Like how would you define it? Because, you're using so many different materials and different, I do. It's not like, it's it's art. That's kind of what I just say. It's art, right? Or is there a specific term for your kind of art?
I don't think I just see it as a way to ask questions. So some different questions and need different materials to ask the questions with. So
well,
I guess I would say.
I like that. But see, you can be any art. You can be music. It could be performance art. It could be writing, filmmaking. The door is open, and NPAF is awesome. So NationalParksArtsFoundation.org. We're here every first Friday chatting with artists across all the national parks that are in these artist residencies. It's so exciting. And keep up with us at BigBlendRadio.com. And we're going to close with some music. I love to play Makana's music. Makana has done so much for the Hawaii Islands. And this is from his album, A Hawaii Interlude, and it's called Forest Walk. Since we've been talking about walking, I just feel like let's play this. And you can keep up with Makana at makanamusic.com. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.